here we are, Aurum Gallery. We are getting to the end of our first wave, first season of Artists, and it's all about supporting artists that are up and coming, instead of just the old codgers like myself, Crash and Bio. With me is Matt Adams, actor, thespian. You were on your way to Hollywood the last time I checked.
Yeah, I was on my way out to LA, but COVID kicked in and yeah, nothing could happen. But yeah, I've got a manager out there called Robert, and I was supposed to go out there and see him and see some art out there. But yeah, no, COVID kicked in, scuppered all plans.
Yeah. So like every struggling artist as we are, you actually just want to be an actor, which is even worse than being an artist, by the way. Unless you're going to be Leonardo DiCaprio or something.
Yeah, I figured that out. They're both equally kind of hard to track.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to tell the audience here, for all of these that don't know, I called you up randomly after some.
Yeah.
Explain yourself, because obviously they like to hear from you as opposed to just moi.
Yeah, so I got a text from you saying, liking your stuff, seeing it on Instagram. And then you said you were going to call me. And then I said, yeah, I'm just getting out of the shower.
Not too much information yet. Cool. Okay.
and then you got on the phone and you were like, Matt, have you dried your fucking balls yet? And I was like,
oh yeah, I said, have you dried your balls yet? I've been waiting here for an hour and a half or so.
Fucking balls, yeah. So that was kind of the perfect introduction. Yeah. So,
well, we've had a less of the show. We've had a good relationship in terms of moving forward with the art. And ironically, your art was the first piece to sell at Aurum Gallery, which was great.
Yeah.
And it was like, we put bets on. We all had bets on. Me and my partner Gary and Leon, we all had bets on, and Lewis at the time had bets of who's going to sell first. And there's me going, it's got to be me, it's got to be me, it's got to be moi. Of course. But because it wasn't, it was you. So that made it really good, really good for us. And I think since then, I think there's just one left maybe of yours.
Is there?
Well, I think so. I mean, what I like about it is that I think the wood medium's really good, and I think that the idea of, which I'll get into in a little bit, but talk me through the process. Like, we know it's stencil art, I get that part of it, but what I like is the actual text writing side of it. Is this to do with, you being an artist that wants to be a poet, that's kind of more, is there a poet that inspires you? For those that don't know, here's an image of your work. Would you like to talk me through the 4 pieces at Aurum Gallery, which have already got, I think there's one left. What was name me one of the pieces?
Yeah, so the first one that sold was, it was called Let's Joke of How We Almost Kissed. Let's sit back and laugh as we pass the burning shipwreck that we clearly missed. So...
lost love, so to speak, an old girlfriend of sorts?
Yeah, I think the point is with all of this is that it's not really, my intention with it is what it was, but I want the audience to try and interpret it in their own way. Mm-hmm. So people have kind of seen that and messaged me and said, oh, I really like this piece. It reminds me of X or whatever, but it isn't what I intended. I don't want to rob the audience of, their interpretation of my work by kind of explaining
Do you not think that, that's what narrative does? It's like a song about something. Sometimes it may be an encoded thing, but sometimes leaving art open, for you, do you find there's a danger if you don't say anything poetically from a literature point of view? Doesn't that widen the audience? Or do you like the idea of, I know what this means, and it's about their interpretation?
Yeah, I think I prefer it to be interpreted and have their meaning applied, because theirs is probably way more interesting than anything I could come up with or what I wrote about. It's the same with, with music. If you listen to Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen or Life on Mars, if you know the exact meaning of it, it robs you of what it reminds you of, or a situation you might have played out in your head. You're only thinking of the exact thing. So I think with this, it's kind of, yeah, important for it to be interpreted by the audience.
Well, that's why I'm playing devil's advocate. I mean, why would you not leave the literature off in that sense? So it's just an image, because there's something outweighing. There's something that's so powerful with the fact of, I know that you wouldn't do those paintings without the literature because it's important to you. It's very intrinsic to you. So
Yeah, yeah.
I guess that's part of the trick, right? I mean, it's if you leaving something that ultimately it's about, what whatever it was, an X or whatever it might be. But that's what art should be, right? I mean, it's something that's interesting in itself. That's the question I'm asking. Why would you not leave any literature on there at all so they can interpret an image?
Yeah, true. I guess it's kind of those things come to me while I'm painting it, so it seems a shame to leave it out. So
I like that. I love that. It's a great answer. I mean, in all of this art, that's what we're trying to find. We lament and we find stuff. How did you find? Because obviously, from the very beginning, you've been with us along with Tony, and Tony Cogdall's been amazing. It's been such a blessing having her, a new work and having, you two as British artists that are pretty unknown. How has it been for you with this, kind of post-COVID thing where you're in this space, have you started painting more? Or are you just, what's the situation with you now with your art and how you feel about it?
yeah, I think I kind of wanted to strip it back. So over the past 2 months, I feel that you can work towards and be kind of like bogged down in your technique so much and obsess over your technique that since giving you all that stuff, I kind of wanted to strip it back. I wanted to learn how to screen print. I've never screen printed before. So I wanted to try and translate my stencil work into screen prints, which I've not done. Obviously that takes time to do that.
Yeah.
I wanted to sit and paint things not really to show. I think you kind of find yourself painting a lot to put out there on Instagram to be viewed straight away, take the pressure off myself,
Yeah.
just kind of make stuff to fail. If I want to paint with oil pastels, paint with oil pastels. I want to do something with just spray paint, Indian ink, whatever. But if it doesn't work, that's fine. Just see what pops out the other end. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's what I've been working towards. Screen printing is probably the next step, but it's just taken a bit of time to try and figure it out.
Well, I did think that the original thing that I saw was a really tiny stamp things you were doing.
Yeah, yeah.
I always felt that if you move into stamps and do them large, into kind of maybe a little bit bigger than you're doing now, or the same kind of size as that. Because obviously that was a big leap for you going a bit bigger, wasn't it? It was kind of like it was, and I pushed you and pushed you to go a little bit bigger, but it was good, and I think it's been great because it's proof in the pudding. But where did your interest of art come from?
I think it was a really kind of specific moment. It was when I was about 12. My family went on holiday to France, and driving down the motorways there, I was in the back of this car, just looking at all these tags and all this graffiti along the side of the motorway in France. And I'd sit there for hours just staring at all this stuff, and it just blew me away. All this stuff was just, out in the middle of nowhere, not even by cities. This stuff was, out in the middle of the Alps. There's just no space left on
People get up.
Yeah,
People get up in Europe, in France. People, I mean, that's what you noticed about the influence of graffiti around the world when you go to places like Bogota or Brazil, or Japan, even any place where there's any concrete walls, believe me, that will get filled.
Yeah, and in France more so. I'm from up north in England, near Chester on the border of Wales. There is no graffiti culture there. There is none of it. So to see this in such a, so much of it, I came back from that holiday and I was just like, man, this is just blowing me away. I was involved in skate culture as well. My life was just skating. So I'd see sort of Shepherd Fairey, guys like that, through the whole skate scene. And when you're at skate competitions, there's people tagging around the place, spray cans out all over the place anyway. So you're involved in that kind of world. And then I started, I don't know if you remember these. Do you remember?
Oh God,
So,
yeah, Gravitism, huge. I've got loads of
yeah,
copies there. Yeah, loads.
so I started ordering those. So,
That's, yeah, Gravitism really for if you're a writer and you want to learn hand style. I mean, you go no further. It's like it's biblical in terms of, can you take a hand style and look at different ways of people's techniques? I mean, Berlin style, Berlin stuff was seen in there when he did the robots on, on various issues. I've got loads of copies upstairs. It's a great starting point, and I've never heard someone say they was inspired by the kind of graffiti technique from seeing loads of these little concrete walls just on a road trip in the middle of nowhere in France. Usually it's subway art or it's, you know what I mean? And obviously you're
yeah,
a younger generation, so that's interesting.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so obviously you've been mixing up that style with obviously stencil work, but I think, so it feels to me that you're in this transition. What are the other pieces that you did? The other three for the gallery, that you want to talk me through those three pieces so that I can show our Aurum
Yeah, yeah.
fans.
So there's one that was called My Last Work of You Lover, which again, um, any interpretation of that is probably bang on.
My last work of you, lover.
Yeah.
So explain that bit of work. I mean, like you don't necessarily have to explain it, I guess, for you, because you're feeling the work and you're doing it.
hmm
And the other two pieces, there's an Asian one that I really fell in love with.
Yeah, yeah. So that one was called Meet Me Where We Used to Be. I'll Wait Beneath the Willow Tree.
Yeah, yeah. Again, another massive poetic title. I mean, did you have any upbringing on poetry, or is it just literally from literature, or just film, or is it just like taken from your own real life experience in that respect?
Yeah, it's just taken from my life experience being, it started when I was sort of 17, 18, and anybody does at that age, you have this busy head. And had a lot of stuff going on, and the way that I could make sense of that was kind of writing it down, and it would turn into these kind of like 15-page things that rhymed in places and were kind of odd and metaphorical. I didn't intend to show them to anyone. It was never the purpose to write poetry to say, oh, here's some poetry. Then 8 years later, I didn't show anybody. Some people read some of my stuff, said they like it. I started including it in my work. Anything that popped in my head as I was painting, I just started throwing in there. So that's how it came in.
So in a weird way, Tony's the same. When you get really up close to her work, she's sort of adding different lines of stuff, which I find very interesting. But I think that for you now, I mean, for us, we're great to have you in the Aurum family, and of course, for us to support you has been brilliant, and it's been great having mad late night calls, driving me mad, the old boy. But I just love the fact that you come, you're doing it from such an honesty, because a lot of work does become very set up sometimes, and it becomes that machine almost. And of course, we'll wait for you when you're ready in terms of what's, I think when art's not a thing you can just go, right, I'm doing it. It's only when you get older you can go, right, this week I'm going to crack this, but you make sure you put the concept away early doors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's for me, it's always been a thing of doing that in that way, and not everyone works like that. But I'm nailing this piece upstairs, which has been driving me mad, and thus the red paint. But it's coming out really well, and I'm just, I've gone through the hardest layers. But I think that's the thing, when you're actually in the moment of doing it, you think, shit, I should have done this earlier. But you think, well, I didn't want to do it earlier because I wasn't in the right mindset.
Yeah.
All these things behind you, what are these just references for you? Because you seem to have I said it to you before, you seem to have this kind of watchmaker's influence, the old watchmaker in the shop. Come in, look at this watch. That's the watch you're looking for. Something like this. With this butterfly in these frames, you've got these insects in these frames and these little kind of portraiture images. What are the artists that inspire you? I mean, I can look at graffiti culture as one thing. So we can put the graffiti aside, and I get that, because every kid, when we came up, and every kid that we influenced, everyone, no matter what it is, whether it's George's clothing in bloody Asda, wherever it might be. They're all influenced by, you know, the kids wearing a hat like this. They're all influenced by subculture. They can't help themselves. It's just part of it.
Yeah.
But in terms of art, you know, when I look beyond, I was looking at, you know, I was first looking at Kandinsky and, you know, Pollock and those, that was the easy go-tos. But then you kind of look at Matisse and you start looking at like Francis Bacon and you start looking at further down the, you know, further down the line of the masters and different things at Cubism. And, you know, I look at Berlin's work and I look at the work of Picasso and like the future Picasso in his work. Are there any artists that really do it for you that you think, Jesus, I want to, that's my end game, kind of?
Yeah, definitely. It's weird you say that. So there's sort of two moments I've been floored, and I did, well, no, three. One of them I just didn't expect it at all. It was, I would have said I wasn't that into abstract art 5 years ago. I would have said like, you know, or whatever. And I remember seeing pictures of Mark Rothko's stuff. I was in the Tate wandering around and walked into this room and these things on the wall. And I remember they just floored me. I walked in thinking, you know, I'm not going to be that into this. And just the scale of them and then like the textures all in it. And I remember thinking, actually, you know, in just a square on a wall with just some color, something so simple, you can sit and stare at that for hours. And I sat there for a long time just staring at it. Didn't expect it at all. So that was one, Mark Rothko. And then another one was, I went to a Van Gogh, however you want to say it. They would describe it as, you know, being really almost sculpting with paint, and you'd see the movement and the energy in his paintings. And, you know, that would make me sit back and think, you know, I'm painstakingly cutting these stencils and it's all very kind of stationary. Let's add some
It's so
energy.
easy. I mean, that's the thing, you know, that's the thing that, you know, it's like DJing when the math is worked out and it's easy, it's about the arrangement, you know, and I think mode 2 sums it up beautifully. The idea of the stroke of the can, once you learn the art of the can movement, it's like the stroke of the brush. It's just a different tool. And I think those artists like Bacon, if you look at the movement that they have in painting, it's very, you know, I get the movement of stencil art and I understand that. But the idea of, you know, hyper stenciling is different. It takes you a whole other level. But I think it's good that you're searching and looking at that. Who was the third artist that you're talking about that floored you? Mark Rothko.
Yeah, Mark Rothko, and then actually another one who I didn't expect it, and it didn't actually hit me till later on. I went to a Warhol exhibition, and you know, I walked in there thinking, oh, you know, large screen prints, you know, cool. But when you see this stuff in person, it seemed that, you know, the size of these things, just the scale of it, and just the simplicity of it, kind of reminding yourself, not just chasing detail, you know.
Yeah.
So kind of like those three people recently changed and affected my work. But yeah, I'm sure there's more, but they're just the ones that kind of pop into my head at the moment.
Well, I saw Warhol in Montreal with my wife, with Mika, and that, I mean, you do, when you see it up front, and I guess that's the thing about this. It's like seeing Matisse. Matisse blew me away. He was paralyzed to be able to paint anymore.
Yeah.
So to be able to direct and cut out and use his sticks to hold while he cut, and he'd get his assistant to cut and do stuff. And I look at, you know, the way that Damon Hirst works, and will create a whole set of work himself, and he'll get other people in an army of people working and doing stuff. And I understand that in a way that I can direct a musician in music, for example. So I'm looking forward to looking for your new work. I really am. I'm looking forward to it. And is there anything you want to say to our Aurum audience out here in Asia, in Bangkok, especially those wonderful people that bought your work?
Yeah, just thank you. Any support is, you know, hugely appreciated. It's nice for my work to just be seen by a new audience and not just be in my room or viewed downstairs in the living room or at a party. So it's just like, thank you to you guys I appreciate it more than you know. It's honestly, it's a pleasure to be involved.
God bless you, Matt Adams, and I hope to speak to you very soon.
Thank you, man. Good to
God
speak
bless
to you.
you, man. Peace out.